Welcome, everyone, to Love, Sex, and Leadership. My name is Aaron Kleinerman. I am very excited to have a dear friend with us today, Briana Cribeyer, who I've known for many years. We are fellow co-teachers in the International School of Temple Arts. She is a phenomenal woman, a dear friend, really a powerful impact of how she shows up in the world, both in a group space as well as in life. And one of the things I appreciate about her is there's always a certain level of like tenderness and raw, truthful vulnerability that comes through her in a very impactful way. And whether we're talking about work or business or whatever it might be, and I appreciate the impact that she brings to this planet. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Aaron. It was super sweet. It was super sweet. I want to start with this piece. So I'm the only Cribeyer in the world. My parents combined their last names together. And recently, Aaron and I are on an adventure of buying cribs. And I mean, like, when you talk about like houses, like finding houses. So that's how I tell people how to remember to pronounce my last name is Cribeyer, like one who goes in and they like pimps the house out. And
amazing. I don't know if I've ever actually learned that skill of your last name. So Cribeyer, I like that.
Yeah.
I'll definitely remember that now.
I know. That's the hack. That's the hack on it. Yeah, Aaron, thank you so much. It's been just such a gift to weave together over this past year and really start to drop in deeper around leadership and around community. And truly a gift to be in this collaboration currently around facilitation. Like I felt similar to being in Portugal and like feeling my body be a yes as we started to talk about facilitation and just the way that our lives align in what does it mean to facilitate a group. And I love that this is such a growing field. I love it. Like I feel the call from more and more people coming into powerfully facilitated spaces. And with that, how long has it been that you've been in the field of facilitation in some way, shape, or form? I know your leadership path has been a lot longer than your facilitation path.
Yeah, I mean, I held my first group or like my first workshop when I was 25, when I was living in LA. And I remember the first time, I was so like, there's so much excitement and nerves inside of me going into that first group and speaking in front of everyone. And then I was like, wow, that was really fun. I want to do more of that. So, yeah, I'm now 42. So that's, 17, 18 years I've been, working and being in front of groups and helping people with deep transformational experiences, helping them really come back into the essence of who they are. Yeah.
Yes,
And
similarly about that amount of time for me, my first foray, I mean, it was a lot of like social justice movement work and leadership development work, but I was with AmeriCorps, which for those that aren't in the States, it's similar to the Peace Corps, but domestic. And my first role, one small piece of it was facilitation and presenting transformational workshops, the same workshop to both middle school students and our corporate sponsors.
wow.
Because we wanted to give the corporate sponsors a taste of what we were doing around leadership development and diversity with the students. And I was blown away one time with one of the corporate sponsors. We delivered this and he was like, I'm actually so moved by this work. I'm doubling our contribution, but I'm also giving everyone who is here the rest of the day off to be in reflection. Because people were like really coming out of their shells. And I was like, you don't have any professional development that touches the heart here? But it's, I won't reveal the company, but it's been 20 years of just recognizing how few spaces at that time there were for people. I'm grateful that it's more and more common, but just because it's common to me, because I'm in this world, doesn't mean that it's common to the vast majority of people. And so I think sometimes when people feel like they're in a saturated market, it's like, just remember all the people that actually aren't doing this yet. And time after time, I'm actually sitting in retreat right now and facilitation. And time after time, I hear people that are like, yeah, I just stepped into this. Even if they're in a big city, they're like, I just got turned on to professional development. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Or personal development and self-development. Yeah.
And in these years for you of being in front of groups and facilitating, what do you feel like really from what you've seen makes a good facilitator? Like, what is it that you see really works when working with a group?
I mean, one of the things that I continue to do my own development and like continuing education around facilitation. Like, I love being in new experiences myself where I'm growing. So like, I'm currently in a mindfulness leadership course right now, like, so that I can bring a more mindfulness practice in. It's drastically shifting my inner world, which of course is going to shift the outer. But about 10 years ago, studying with a mentor, our very first time sitting down, we started to get some clarity on what is facilitation. And how is this different than being a teacher or a coach or, just leadership in general? And I had a background in nonprofit management, and there are some differences that really come through here. And in some ways, it's like I start with an agenda, and then I'm pretty much prepared to rip up the agenda because I'm more concerned about reading the space. I care so much less about like, what did I think was going to be a good idea, and more so about like what's happening here in the space. So I think your question was, what makes a good facilitator? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Or like like to that difference in making something powerful. It's attunement. It's the same thing that makes beautiful lovers and partners. It's a deep level of attunement and being willing to listen to what's occurring in the space, which means quieting whatever I thought was a good idea when I came into it. And certainly, rehearsing the shit out of whatever I thought that good idea was. And I think the other piece is being in my own practice and walking the talk. Like, I can feel the difference when someone lives the work that they're facilitating and they've looked at it through many different angles. And sure, I'll like try some things that I haven't done before. Like, that's also really fun for me, but only if I have like a deep-seated understanding of where are we going with this.
Yeah, what I really hear in that is a differentiation between someone who's getting in front of a group and regurgitating information and just, teaching bullet points and practices. And of course, there's a time and a space for that. But really, this art of facilitation, this art is learning how to see the unseen and hear the ineffable, to hear the things that are underneath that is ultimately the actual guiding, you could say, energetics of the where the group is going underneath the framework of what the retreat or the workshop or the group or the framing is. And what I've found is by doing that, there's actually such a more deeply profound experience that happens for someone than just the information regurgitation. And yet so much of what's taught is like, oh no, you have to like drill down information. They need to know all these bits and pieces. And actually, is that person who's being facilitated to being listened to? Are they being heard? Are they being felt? Are they actually being seen? Or is it just me as some, guru or mentor or facilitator trying to teach them what I think that they should know? And this to me is where it gets interesting,
Yeah, this is where the fun starts to happen. It really is. It really is. It's the element of surprise. It's curiosity. It's practicing deep listening skills. It's recognizing that in every group, there's going to be what I like to call the sacred splinter. And recently I was working with a community and doing a reflection period after an event. And they're like looking for, really constructive feedback on the facilitation aspects. And I said, that person that was a total pain in the ass that asked that question that seemed like it was going to derail, that was actually the teacher in the room. That moment right there, I was like, yeah, I was annoyed. Also, I'm not totally free of judgment. I can have these things that pass. But I felt my breath deepen in that moment. And I was like, no, that whole question and even their tone and a little bit of righteousness in it, that was the moment to lean in with that person. even though there's history, even though that person is a little bit like divisive in the group. There was a moment there to really be like, tell me more. What do you think about that? Why is that important? Like to get in there with them. So it's, yeah, I mean, I think this is part of the continuing education piece is like, where do I think I know anything about anything? And I certainly don't actually encourage people to come in without doing a hell of a lot of work, you know, around themselves, but also like holding a group is it's no, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that it's not easy, like that's not quite it, but it's no small deal when someone says yes, and bringing people in and having people trust you, but also extending that same trust to the group. Like I actually really deeply trust anyone that says yes to anything that I offer. And that's the service part that gets awakened in my heart is like, I'm honored, like deeply honored when people say yes and they show up, whether that's in my living room for a small group or it's a larger investment retreat or a year-long program.
Yeah, because there's something in their commitment to this space it's not a surrender of who they are, but there's like a surrender to being willing to be guided. You know, I look at it from a framework of like going into a yoga class. Like I'm aware that I'm bringing myself there to be guided by that teacher and a certain level of postures and flow and a level of synergy that's going to support them. And I also, where I really love and support is that in the spaces that often you and I are facilitating is there can be some edgy places. We're working with emotions, we're working with sexuality, we're helping individuals find like their true authentic yes. Like one of the things I love is when someone actually feels like they're full like fuck no to doing something that I've invited. I'm like, great, amazing, you're taking care of yourself, like what a beautiful thing. And whereas where I've seen sometimes people in a younger framework of facilitation is almost like a need to try to like get everybody to do a certain thing, and it actually ends up creating a disharmony and a distrust and a place where they can't actually feel that this facilitator has my best interest. The same way if you're in a yoga class and you're like, I can't actually do that posture, the teacher's not going to say, no, you had to bend that way, damn it, bend your body that way, that's what you're supposed to do. It's like, can we listen to the things that are arising to inform us of how we can more effectively guide that group?
That just took me back to this like early Ashtanga trauma. Just go ahead and breathe while I squeeze your body together. Yeah, I mean, it's an easy trap to fall into. You kind of said it as like newer facilitators, young, kind of the youngness in the field of this, and still I can get quite attached. But I think it's now I recognize like, oh, I'm attached to it looking a certain way. And so I'm going to bring myself back to presence and notice like, this doesn't really have to do with me or how I thought it was going to go. This example though, of tearing up the paper. I mean, I was working with a small group a few years back and we'd planned a whole curriculum over a couple of hours. We needed to deliver something. And I was the person who was taking all the notes and organizing everything. And then we got up to get ready to present. We're like 3 minutes from presenting and they're like, you have the notes. And I was like, no, I put them in the fire. We don't need them. I mean, I was obviously messing with them, but it was, but there was something in that. There was something in that I actually recognized in that moment. And I was going through a thesis study and delivering, and I kind of intentionally like tossed my notes to the side. So something that I was tracking even at that period of time was like, what is really available here if I can begin to release so much of what feels important and have a deeper layer of trust, which is what I'm asking for from the group. I'm asking the group to come with me on a journey. I'm asking them to trust me. And I'm also like really accepting that they don't, and that trust is not an easy thing to come by. And why should they trust me? You know, but like, can we actually be in this together? Like, can we go along on this ride together? And it's those difficult conversations and leaning into them and being in the realness of it just even thinking about co-facilitating and like the dynamics that are at play. I mean, you and I have definitely worked with some amazing characters over the years, and co-facilitating is just my favorite. It's way different than being a solo facilitator. But it's one of the pieces that I think is so important around facilitation also, is like acknowledging like there's a dynamic at play here and we have nowhere to hide it. But we're also sitting here as humans willing to face it, meet it, and move forward with all of you and not pretend like it's all polished.
Yeah.
You know, the words might be polished, but like our dynamic, like clearly we have a weird thing going on.
Yeah, I love that you bring this in because obviously I know you and Blake teach together. I've talked
We do.
together with many not current partner, but my past partners, and there's such a strong like learning curve. I often say if someone can teach together, live together, be in romance together, and run a business together, it's like that's probably the most enlightened journey I've found yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I hope Blake's listening right now. I just like, you hear that, babe? High 10.
Because it's like there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. Just recently my ex-partner Chantel Raven, we were together for over 2.5 years, and we did a lot of facilitation together. And a couple years back, after we hadn't seen each other for a while, we came back together and taught. And it was 95% like really seamless and beautiful. And we both realized at the end of that, it was like, and this is something that I want to bring in, because we both realized that there was something that was still a little bit unspoken. There was something that was there that was still a little like to the outside group, it looked like really polished. It was clear, it was strong, it was there. But we both had an inner recognition, and we spoke about it. We're not in a relationship anymore at this time. And so we brought in kind of an outside mentor to just give us some feedback. Like there's something here that we're holding. There's some type of karma that we're running into over and over here. And so we went through that. We had a really beautiful deep healing, and I had a lot of tears and expression. And we both said, all right, let's try this one more time. Let's try this one more time. Let's see how we go. So this past December, we taught the same Living Tantra retreat together in Costa Rica. And we both looked at each other at the end. We're just like, boom, like high five. Like there wasn't any of that stickiness. There wasn't anything else underneath. And it was like, and I was in such a place of appreciation for both her, for myself, as well as our capacity to do the shadow work. And this to me is an absolute necessity for anyone who's going to be doing advanced facilitation. It's like, are you actually reflecting in the mirror of what's arising in front of you from your partners, from the group, from things that are there? Or is it being pushed down in the name of, I'm a good facilitator, and I need to look at that? When I feel that, when facilitators aren't open to feedback, I'm like, I get a little bit, a little antsy about it, because I know that's the place, and I'm sure it's the same for you, of where we can grow and expand. I'd love to hear any thoughts you have around that. I'm sure there could be a lot.
Yeah, I mean, just to name it here for anybody that's listening, watching, tuning in, that's thinking about this, like it's uncomfortable to get feedback. For a period of time at least, until you just, it's uncomfortable to do burpees until you practice them.
True.
And like, okay, I got like 2 in me, and then I got to take a break. But I find feedback to be the same way. And even though I've been immersed in feedback-rich environments for 20 years, I feel like I'm just now really getting how medicinal it can be. Like I saw the value in it always, but there's something now that like happens. Like I'm on a medicine journey. I'm like blasted open, penetrated, breathing it in, taking it in, noticing the discomfort. Medicine work is so prominent these days, so I'm kind of likening it to that. But I think that's some of the path around shadow work also, is like, get into the uncomfortable in a space where you're being held, in a space where you can really be supported, to let it penetrate through, to be able to examine, like, why was that so uncomfortable? What's the idea that I hold about myself? Like, what is it confronting? What is it coming up against that I'm resistant to it? feeling defensive about this. Like underneath it all, we just want to do a good job. And we want to be told that we're doing a good job. But if that self-worth wound or if that validation is not being worked with somewhere else in the world, if I'm not surrounding myself, if I'm not being congruent in some way, it's going to sting more. That's been my experience. And with a lot of people that I've worked with over the years, as a coach and facilitator, sometimes, as a coach, I'm supporting facilitators around that, like how they can actually be more congruent with themselves, because I think that's the part that stings. And why people are resistant to feedback is because they're not being supported and held in the more uncomfortable parts of self. And once we can really build our community around that, to see the humanity, to feel it, to go into it, to cry the tears that need cried, to scream into the pillow, to have the conversation with our parents, living or past, and to start to close some of those gaps. I can't separate out, and maybe this is just me, but I can't separate out the self-development work and like the deeper emotional intelligence work and the shadow work. I can't separate that out from facilitation training. I mean, that's going to be a big part of what we're leaning into in the art of advanced facilitation. It is deeply a self-development, leadership development opportunity. Even when I hear leadership development, I'm like, will this be good for your relationships? Absolutely. There's no way that it couldn't be. We're going all the way in. Like there's no holding back. It's everything. It's everything at once. It's holistic. We could have just called it the holistic facilitation training in some way, because we're looking at all the aspects. They are so intricately woven in. It's not just how to present something to a room, although certainly we'll work on those skills as well. But there's the depth of it, of like, where am I really willing to go? And that's what I feel like takes people from being a teacher or somebody who's presenting information into like really an extraordinary facilitator.
Absolutely.
Can I
Pardon me
connect
one
with
moment. See, close the door.
Sure.
There was the elephant in the room that needed to be closed. And this is, to me, like one of the things I love, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is like, I always feel like the space that we're in, the situations that are arising, everything that's coming up is always here for us and not against us. Like in the place of the weird things that happen inside of groups. Like, we were just checking in before this, and the venue that I know you're at right now. I remember the last time I was teaching there was right around. It happened actually while I was there with all the big events that happened in Israel in October. This is October of a year and a half ago. And there was like this massive global event that happened while we're in a group in facilitation. And this to me was like witnessing the impact of how something from the outside is always informing the space for us to grow and form and expand. And I think this is a really important tool for both our personal shadow work as well as for the collective shadow that happens inside of a group space. And how can I use everything that's happening in this space, physically, energetically, somatically, as a way to bring us back home into our bodies, whatever that might be. And it's like nothing is outside of that cusp in that arena. And that's also what makes it kind of fun in a sense, because it's not like delivering the same thing over and over again. It's like, all right, spirit, like, what kind of crazy shit are you going to bring up today? Like, where do I get to move with and play with? And that's, for me, like, and I'm sure the same for you, running so many groups and events and retreats. Like, I want things to be, I'm not trying to create chaos, but I want to be in forms where I can actually be growing and learning and expanding with the essence of the group in a way that I'm attuned to the nature of where we can go, rather than the addiction to where I think it should be.
Yeah, it's just reminding me of like letting spirit move through me. but also seeing where it's moving through the group dynamic. Where is it moving through the group dynamic? And having, like, paying attention to the different balance points. Like, we might be talking about the most serious thing, and like I'm somehow have become a stand-up comedian. And not to distract or pull away, but actually to support people to go deeper into something that's really dense, to be able, you know, like, what is the entry point that the group needs? And other times the group needs to, like, move with a lot of silence. You know, I've thrown in an hour of silent, by whether it's moving meditation or like really just dropping into a silent meditation for a period of time, unplanned, because I'm sensing that there's something that I don't know in the room. I mean, and oftentimes, even as the person who's holding the point of knowing what's going on, there's times where people are like, but I need to know, I need to know, I need to know. And I'm like, but we don't know. Like, we cannot know. And so there's this addiction to knowing that helps people feel safe. And sometimes the best thing that I can do is actually to sit back and be like, we actually, you know, we don't know anything. Like, there's a relationship here with the mystery that we can be in. And so I let a lot of whatever's coming through the group and the questions and the way that the questions are coming through inform what are the hundreds of different directions that we could take this. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about, you know, advanced facilitation, what that looks like. And what I think about is people who have been teaching in some capacity. I was just talking with someone who's curious about the art of advanced facilitation. And they were like, yeah, but I'm not like really a facilitator. And I was like, you've been holding small groups for 10 years. And they're like, yeah, but just like in my living room. Like, I think of it as like, just have some material to work with. You know, there's a thirst to want to serve. And then there's also like, do I have enough reference points to be able to move in and through the dynamics, to be able to look at myself? That's it. Like, do you have enough reference points to be able to look at self and have something to really work with? And the passion. You don't even have to know what we're facilitating. In fact, like, that's some of the fun. When I'm holding local events in Austin, I'm often asking the community what they want, not what I'm hot for. I get great ideas every day, you know, like, it's a manifesting generator. Like, it just rains down on me. But it doesn't matter what I think my great idea is necessarily if the community isn't inspired by it and it's not their yes. I think that's one thing that you and I were talking about as we were creating this too, is like, we have so many people coming to us who are deeply interested in leading from a place of integrity and congruency and wondering where to turn to get that information. There's books about it, but there's nothing like the lived experience of being in a group that will give you powerful feedback and hold you in your mess.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like, you know, one of the things we're speaking about is the field of the unknown that happens in a group field. And I think for people listening, they might think, but I don't have enough skills to feel comfortable, enough skill sets to pull out. And one of the ways I really want to speak to those people is in what we're bringing in and what we're aligning to in this advanced facilitation is, you could say, increasing that tool belt of skills that are there to be able to be with all of the different shades and colors and sizes that can happen in a group field, so that the nervous system, like the nervous system of myself when I was 25 in front of that group, like, and 42 about to, you know, lead another retreat in just a couple of days, it's like my nervous system is so relaxed in the unknown that no matter what happens, I trust in a capacity of my co-teacher as well as myself to navigate the group where it's directly going. But that's a learned skill through time. And that's been through, you know, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. A lot of times of having the notes and having the framework and having the foundation, it's like the foundation of the house I'm in right now is strong, it's solid, it's there. And that allows for this flow of wind and weather and life force to move through. And this is really to me, the essence, because I see sometimes the other side of this is people are almost like immediately trying to go to the unknown, and they're trying to lead in all those spaces, but there's not actually a strong foundation. And people's nervous system feels whether or not it's a held space that they know that they can completely melt into. Is this a safe space that I can completely melt into and I'm going to be held? Or is there not actually the strong foundation that allows for that? And this is this comes with time, I think, more than anything. It comes with, definitely for myself, times of failing and falling and learning and being like, whoa, that one didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. And well, I'm going to put that on the chalkboard of evolution and growth so that I can show up with more capacity to listen more deeply and to express more completely and to really sense what's underneath the picture.
Yeah, I'm a yes to all of what you're sharing right here, and I just really want to encourage people that are hearing this, but that doesn't mean sit still. Maybe it's sit back, but it doesn't mean that you can't start to put yourself in positions.
Yeah.
As we're talking about, like, I love co-facilitating so much, and I co-facilitate with people at all different levels and ranges. I mean, my favorite people are twice my age, half my age, which I guess is actually true now. I was like, is that true? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Twice my age, half my age. I've had so many mentors over the years. I've assisted so many programs. I've asked questions. I've, developed relationships where I could really kind of create my own wisdom council of sorts to be able to ask that. And I will continue. I will continue over and over and over again to be with people that I learn from. My greatest teacher right now is a almost 5-year-old. I'm learning from her all the time. That's where I get some of my, like, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Where are we going? Where
are we going? What's under that rock? Yeah. This just like this deep remembering. So I'm such a yes to these pieces, and to, like, there's this careful balance between moving with some amount of caution, but it's not even quite the right word. It's like moving with awareness that I don't know what I don't know, but not letting that hold you back or stop you, but also really taking care of the group. I have like a highly vigilant mother. I wouldn't say she's exactly anxious, but very vigilant. And in my first, decade or so of doing so much of what I've done, or anytime that I switch into a new career and with a new organization, she's like, but is this in your scope? Like, are you staying in your, oh, Mom, but I did. I mean, I've let it deeply penetrate me so that I make sure that wherever I'm coming from in a moment, I'm meeting it from my most authentic place that I can meet it from. And that's as a human, can I human with this person? I don't need to have all the answers. And certainly there's things that are helpful, like being trauma informed and knowing nervous system regulation and having your own solid practices. But I think sometimes people can hear messages like this and be like, oh, I knew it. I knew that I wasn't good enough. I knew that I couldn't go forward yet. I heard Aaron and Briana say, whatever the thing is. But it's a careful balance. I think it's a sweet, careful balance. And being able to step into things. I think we can trust ourselves, like, not to be taking on too much or becoming oversaturated with information, but also trusting, like, where is my really intentional yes here? Can I create time and space in my life to open myself to this yes, to be opened by life and what's coming through me? And if this is passion, facilitation, service, then great. But it's not easy. It's not easy. I have a lot of people that will ask about, like, I want to lead a retreat. And the first thing I say is, like, it's not easy. It's a labor of love for a while. Particularly if you're just starting out and you're doing all the planning yourself, it's a lot in there, but it's deeply rewarding work. It's why we're sitting here talking about this, is because there's nowhere else I'd rather be.
No,
Truly.
Exactly. And what do you feel like you most commonly say to some of those people that are, maybe having some fear, some hesitation? They can feel some part of their soul. It's like, to lead, I want to support, I want to facilitate, I want to guide people. And then they, some part of them maybe shrinks up a little bit and they get a little bit afraid. Like what are some of the things you're often sharing around those fears, around those hesitations to people in that space?
I mean, I think one of the first things I say, and I just said this to somebody within the last couple of days, I just said, come. Come play. Come play, really, like, come play, come assist, come have lunches with me, like, come put yourself in to feel, is this a good fit for you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Come immerse yourself into it.
Mm.
I've thought a lot about, are there innate skills that make someone a powerful facilitator? Like, I don't want people to facilitate how I facilitate. Are there codes that I have that I've learned over the years that I can see work to relate to groups, to, particularly diverse groups? Are there? Yes, sure. And mine are going to be different than Aaron's. And I trust, like, I deeply trust that different people will resonate with what different facilitators bring.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that
Mm-hmm.
we level each other up and we sharpen
Mm-hmm.
each other by being together. And so that's really what I often say is, come. Like, if you care about this, and with my colleagues, like, come, let's do something here together where we can be in the spiral and we can, like, run this through a few times and really feel. How about you? What do you say to people when they have this fears that come up?
Well, yeah, I'll answer that in a moment. I just want to reflect like that. I feel like was the nature of how this was sort of came into creation with you and I was the space of like both of us saying, recognizing what inbox was coming in from people's requests and then putting out there and being like, I know I can do this on my own and I can do this on my own, but let's actually come together to create something that's more magical than either one of us could actually fully comprehend. So I just want to honor that. And the other thing before I answer that was, last night I was just finishing a 5-month online group coaching program, teaching, people how to become better coaches and accelerate in their skills in kind of one-to-one space, which was a small group. We're about 8 people for 5 months. And I was saying to them this exact thing. It's like, don't go and be a coach like me. And even if you take this and facilitate or do, like, find your way, like utilize everything, all these skills that I've shared with you so that you get to become something that's exciting. And this took me a long time to really get, because I tried to like become what people were telling me on stage I should do, especially when I was really early in this industry and I was speaking on stage and I was part of this big publishing company and I was talking to big groups and I was really like, all right, how do I accelerate my capacity to impact, when I'm in front of a group of 100, 200, 300. And like everyone was telling me, you got to do like this and this and this. And then eventually I realized I just need to find like how I'm going to relate to the crowd, how I'm going to work with people, how I'm going to guide them into these things. Because if I'm doing anything else, it actually gets like painful inside. I find at the end of a retreat where I've tried to be something other than me, I get tired. And whereas if I'm just leading from the naturalness inside of me, it's like I can do it, week after week, which I'm trying not to do as much of because I do a lot of that.
Same.
But it's like I get asked that question all the time of like, aren't you tired? It's like I'm showing up and sharing what's alive in my heart and helping people come back into the naturalness of their body and remember themselves as love. Like, it's not very exhausting to me. I get to celebrate it. What a great space to be in. So yeah. So to answer what you're sharing, like to me, what I'm sharing with people in that way is to close their eyes and to go inside and to find their why. To find the why of what wants to bring them in front of a group, to what wants to, have an impact in someone's life. And I find, because my why for when I was younger, especially, was some part of me trying to validate my ego of being seen. And that didn't really work out. I learned a lot of skills and things, but it never really felt fulfilling. And then when I could find a why inside of witnessing deep transformational growth, of helping people become more of their natural born leader, of recognizing that there's nothing else that I actually would want to do with my time that makes me feel more inspired inside, then what else am I going to do now than help other people in this way? And that was the why that drives me. And of course, that why can shift and change. But I would say for really anyone who's tuning in, it's like really get curious. To really get curious on what is that part of you that wants to support. Is it a service of the soul? Is it a validation from mom or dad that you haven't received yet that you're trying to get by being in front of a group? Because that might work for a little while, but eventually it's not. So it's an invitation to get really empty and to get really curious and present to what naturally and spontaneously wants to move through you, with skills in a framework that lets people that you're guiding know how to be held safely, which is a important piece I always want to return to, because it's not like we're just shooting blindly, where there's an awareness of the somatic energies that we're moving people into, but then we're taking them back into deep states of integration. So yeah. Feel the passion light up inside of me.
Yeah, I felt it too. That was beautiful. It was beautifully
Mm,
said. It was beautifully said. Today, and sometimes for me, it's different day to day. Like there's the
mhm,
overarching why. Today, I'm here for the shares, like the share
mm,
backs. Like when people have done something that they weren't sure about, and then listening to the harvest and like letting it go longer because people want to share, and feeling the diversity of the shares, and that they really got that it didn't need to look a certain way. And they're just authentically experiencing themselves. And it's like they're moving themselves by what they're hearing themselves share back to the group during the harvest and the integration period. And like
mhm,
today, that's what lit up. I like that I'm
mm,
actively in a facilitation space. And when we talk about this, because I can really be, yes, I'm so connected to what it was today. That and
mhm,
sitting down on one of the breaks and having someone just share what was moving, and then like, I'm just crying with them,
mhm,
just feeling
mhm,
the new clarity. It suddenly came in and down and through something they've been wrestling with, at least for their adult life. And something new comes through, not because I told them the answer, but because I just sat and listened, and something that the whole group went through gave them the clarity.
mhm, mhm,
And all they
mhm,
needed to do was let it
mhm,
unfold. Like that's what I'm lit up by. Humans discovering themselves, seeing themselves, and I'm just there to witness it. It's like really, it's like it comes back to this piece of being an honor. Like what an
mhm.
honor to have, to be able to sit there and watch people discover themselves. It's not really about me at all. I just try to lay it out really clearly.
And do you feel like good facilitators or people, do you think it's a natural like extrovert thing, or do you think it's an introvert thing? What's your reference point for that?
I have worked with some beautifully well, one, I'm more and more introverted as
Mm,
I get older. I mean, I think I'm just taking better care of myself. I'm not overextending outwards, and like so I'm resourcing more on my own than I ever have.
mhm, mhm,
But I've worked with some amazingly talented introverts. So often it's just their being. It's just like
mm,
their being. They might say half as many words as I do, but there's something about their beingness that is just circulating in the space. And I think about particularly like I don't even know if it's a particular, but there's almost like a priest or priestess quality. Like
mhm,
it's not about the number of words. It's sometimes not even about the clarity, but there's a vibration, because that's their authentic truth. Like that's what's the most congruent thing for that person.
mhm,
And so they don't need to be the most eloquently spoken or have it all together. And sometimes they don't even see their greatness in that. And I'm like, no, 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 this would not have been the same without you. I think of
mm,
many
mhm,
amazing facilitators that I've worked with that actually don't know how amazing they are.
mhm,
But
mhm,
it's the fact that they just vibrate, they do their own work, they show up, and the impact is felt by everyone. Like the results and the feedback are right there in the room.
mm. So would you say that's sort of like an energetic permission field that's created with a way of
Exactly.
being?
Exactly. Yeah,
Mm,
exactly that. Yeah, there's like, even if it's a quiet, energetic authority,
mm,
there's a
mhm,
quiet power. And that kind of diversity in leadership is really important.
mm, mhm,
It's really
mhm.
important. And I feel just as delighted to have people like that in the training. Now, I don't want everyone to be like me, we're all
Yeah.
smiley white girls that are 41 and bubbly at times or cry a lot or, whatever box you want to put me in.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, it's like, can we touch on the deeper pieces of the leadership diversity, and that it takes all kinds to be able to come together and to be in
Mm,
this collective energy.
mhm,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm,
People will come because they resonate with the real you.
mm, mhm. And there's
Just
a
gonna turn to
almost
the side here. I'm realizing that we're still mid podcast, but someone just came in the door. Pardon me.
that's okay. All good. We work with what is.
We work with what is. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, there's a permission field that I think we create for people. There's a permission field that sometimes I often see people's inability to step into this is it's as if they're not giving themselves permission to play in the arena that's possible. They're still playing almost in a some of the limiting beliefs that they might still be holding on to. And I love almost watching these moments. Like I was just having an intake conversation with one of the women who's wanting to join our advanced facilitation program. And I could feel in it, there's like this part of her soul that's just like, so ready and wanting to do this. And there's still parts of like the humanness that are catching up with this. And it's in many ways good not to overextend and to allow that natural growing progression of the energetics that are able to be held. And this is really where I feel, whether someone going through this is able to go out of it holding a group of 2 to 5 people or 200 to 500 people. It really doesn't actually matter as much. It matters to the degree in which they're getting to meet their own edges. And I could feel that with her. It was like there's this edge of I want to do this, and I know I want to do it. I'm gonna start holding these weekly groups. I'm gonna start leaning in this way, and oh, this is uncomfortable. And it's like it's almost juicy just to witness like the uncomfortable stirring inside when there's a being stepping into more of their natural like magnetic magnitude itself that's ready to make an impact in the world, whatever that might be.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah, really feeling the fullness of that. The
Mm,
fullness of that being bringing themselves forward.
mm-hmm.
Mm.
And so what would you say to someone who's watching this now who's like, I like these two. They're a little quirky, but I like these two. I think I'm ready to learn a little bit more. What would you say to someone who's curious to dive in a bit more, ready to take that step, ready to take that leap forward?
Come.
Mm. Come,
Just come.
come. The door's open.
Yeah, I mean, there's the multiple layers of that. I think that there's something particularly unique about being able to go in over an extended period of time. Like, what I
Mm,
think is important about that is that we get to really have the reference point, not just the deep dive that we're going into together, which like is going to be amazing. This beautiful, beautiful place that we call home in Portugal.
mhm,
But over a 7-month period of time, we get to witness ourselves. We get to witness ourselves being impacted by ourself, being in that
mhm,
deep reflection, having time to integrate, really being able to reflect on the journey of
mm.
what is
Yep,
here, what is now, what is current, where am I headed? Like something's going to happen.
yep,
You
yep.
know, I mean, it's that, and I think it's also being really committed to creating value, like being
Mm,
committed to creating value for yourself. Like, will we be delivering value? Of course, but I've
mhm,
taken things that were probably on the surface, like, yeah, there's going to be massive value here, and I was like, I'm not getting anything.
mm,
you know, but that was because I wasn't choosing in. I learned that lesson real deep, real deep. And a great coach was just like, what would make it valuable for you? And I was like, oh, maybe if I chose to create value, how about that?
How about that?
How about that? Yeah, but I think it's that deep commitment, to going all the way in.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm celebrating and appreciating the creation of time that we get to hold up to mirrors to ourselves, to mirrors to the group that's coming in, to really support a deeper level of advanced facilitation, especially in these embodiment spaces and these tantric spaces and these somatic spaces, dance spaces. So really speaking to those people out there, if you've been kind of sitting back, maybe you've already started to hold some groups and you're like, oh, curious to doing a bit more, or if you're ready to really take that leap and to step into a held training and community where you can have a chance to receive that mirror of who you really are, and to learn more fine-tuned skills to put on your tool belt so that you can make the impact that you want to in the world. And come play, come join, come be with us. If you go to theartoffacilitation.com, you can find out all the information there. And yeah, I'm just super grateful for your presence, for your friendship in my life, and I love that we get to have these conversations and create the impact that we do in the world. It's beautiful.
Me too. Yeah. And there's so many layers that we can go into in this. And I think the piece that I'm the most excited about is like, we're going to go into some of the edgier conversations. We're committed to that. We're committed to like touching the places where fear comes up, and being in it together, to, just step into those places of the mystery and just really go deep into it.
Amazing. Well, enjoy your rest. Enjoy the rest of your group. Sending you big hugs from Bali, and looking forward to our journey we get to take together for the Art of Advanced Facilitation.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you all for tuning in. This has been Love, Sex, and Leadership. And if you liked this conversation, please subscribe. Please comment. If you have questions for Briana or I, please feel free to send us a message. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. Have an amazing day, and thank you so much.